Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're diving into how to ace those fur animals breeder interviews. We've got a bunch of common questions they throw at you, plus a really cool career guide to help you really stand out.
It's a field where, you can really let your love for animals shine, but you need real expertise too. We'll unpack what's behind those questions, what interviewers really want to hear.
Music to my ears. So first up, can you describe your experience with breeding fur animals? Seems pretty straightforward, but what's the play here?
It's your first impression, right? Don't just rattle off a list of species. Instead of a grocery list, think back to a breeding season that was really successful. Maybe a litter that was really challenging. A time you had to get creative to solve a problem, that sort of thing.
A story, not just a resume, got it.
Exactly. Oh, and weave in those certifications. Shows you're serious.
Smart.
Yeah.
Now, question 2 is all about making sure those animals are healthy and well cared for. Beyond the basics, what are interviewers listening for?
It's all about going above and beyond, Don't just meet the minimum, exceed it. Talk about preventative care, how you understand each animal's needs, even how you catch those early signs of illness.
Like a sixth sense, almost.
Exactly. Anyone can treat a sick animal, but a great breeder, they prevent it in the first place.
Being proactive, not just reactive. Love it. Okay, question 3 gets into the weeds a bit. Managing breeding pairs. Feels very specific. What kind of things should someone highlight here?
This is where you show off your knowledge of how animals behave, and genetics too, of course. Do you keep super detailed records of those breeding cycles? Have you worked with different breeding methods? Line breeding, outcrossing, those sorts of things?
Okay, so knowing the lingo helps.
For sure. Don't be afraid to talk about specific challenges you've faced. Maybe a tough litter or a breeding pair that just wasn't working out. How did you handle that?
Show 'em you can think on your feet, too. Now, question 4 is about artificial insemination. What kind of experience would really impress here?
Time to get specific. What techniques have you used? Equipment you're comfortable with? Even your success rates? Put it all out there.
Proving you can handle the more technical parts of the job.
Exactly. And if you've had specific training on AI, absolutely mention it. Shows you're on top of the latest and greatest.
Speaking of which, question 5 asks about keeping things ethical with those fur animals. Big one, I'd imagine.
Huge. Be ready to talk about those animal welfare regulations, what the best practices are in the industry. But more than just knowing the rules, you need to show you truly care about treating those animals right.
Maybe even a time you had to speak up for an animal, what the extra mile, that kind of thing.
100%. Shows you're not just there for the paycheck, you actually care about the animals.
Love that. Now, question 6 feels like a bit of a curveball. Can you describe any challenges you've faced in your past roles as a fur animal breeder? Who wants to talk about challenges in an interview?
Look, it's not about airing your dirty laundry, right? It's about showing you can bounce back, that you're a problem solver. Did a breeding season go sideways? Did you have to make a tough call about, culling or pelting? Talk about how you handled it, what you learned, how it made you a better breeder.
So turning a negative into a positive?
Yeah.
I like it.
Right. This is also a good time to mention any improvements you made, any initiative you took, new record keeping, streamlining a process, those sorts of things.
So challenges can spark innovation. That's cool.
Happens all the time. And it shows you're always looking to improve.
Now this next one is interesting. Sounds very data-driven. Can you describe your experience with record keeping and data analysis? Not something people usually picture with working with animals.
More common than you'd think. Modern breeding, it really relies on data. Talk about the records you've kept. Litter sizes, mortality rates, genetic lines, all of it.
What about the tools? Are there software programs that are pretty standard?
Name dropping those is great, shows you're in the know, and if you've used that data to actually make decisions, like changing feeding routines or maybe spotting potential genetic problems, definitely bring those up.
So you're not just gathering data, you're actually using it.
Exactly. That kind of thinking, using data to get better, it's valuable everywhere.
And speaking of valuable, how does RoleCatcher fit into all of this?
RoleCatcher can be a game changer when you're trying to nail those answers. It's like having AI read the job description and then tell you exactly how to tailor your response.
So if they want someone who's really good with data analysis, like we were just talking about, RoleCatcher would say, hey, make sure you really highlight that.
Exactly. Like having your own personal coach in your corner.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. All right, back to those interview questions.
Let's do it. The next one's all about showing off what you've done, being proactive. Can you describe any innovations or improvements you've made? That kind of thing. Don't be shy here.
All right, time to toot your own horn a little, right?
Exactly. Did you change up the feeding and see those kits thrive? Find a way to make the breeding pens work even better. Maybe you brought in some cool new tech, something that made things better for the animals. This is where you prove you're not just going through the motions, you're thinking ahead.
Shows you're invested.
Yeah.
Want the whole operation to succeed. Yeah.
Right on. That's what those interviewers love to see, someone with fresh ideas.
Speaking of staying ahead of the game, our last question is, how do you stay up to date with the latest and greatest in fur animal breeding? Want to make sure you're in it for the long haul, I guess.
For sure. Time to prove you're genuinely interested, that you're always learning. Talk about any courses, workshops, those breeder magazines you mentioned, even online groups where breeders swap tips.
So being part of the community is key too.
Huge. Mentioning specific magazines, organizations you're part of shows you're plugged in.
It's like, I see those magazines at the farm supply store. I bet they're full of good stuff.
Yep. You wouldn't believe it. And these days, with online resources, webinars, it's easier than ever to stay in the loop.
Speaking of resources, let's bring RoleCatcher back in. How does that AI magic help with this question?
Picture this. You type in, staying updated on trends, right into RoleCatcher. It doesn't just find stuff, it looks at your experience, sees if you've got any blind spots.
So if I haven't been to a conference in a while, it might nudge me towards some good ones coming up.
Exactly. Or suggest some online communities, people to follow, that kind of thing, all specific to fur animal breeding, of course.
That's seriously handy, like having a career counselor on speed dial.
Right. RoleCatcher takes the guesswork out of it, helps you look like a pro who's always learning.
Okay, so we've tackled all 9 questions. Let's zoom out a bit, talk about the bigger picture, that Fur Animals Breeder Career Guide. It's got a ton of good info for anyone thinking about this kind of work.
Oh, yeah. It's amazing. Day-to-day stuff, career paths, even how much you can earn. They really cover it all.
Let's start with the work environment. This isn't your typical desk job, is it?
Not even close. Be ready for long days, especially during breeding and pelting season. It's physical work, you're outside, in all kinds of weather.
So loving animals is key, but you got to be a hard worker too.
Absolutely. This is for people who are passionate, dedicated, but the payoff is huge.
Speaking of payoff, what's the career ladder look like for a breeder?
Usually starts with entry-level stuff, kennel assistant, junior breeder. You're getting your hands dirty, learning all aspects.
Paying your dues.
Exactly. As you get better, more experienced, you can move up. Senior breeder, farm manager, that sort of thing.
And for those go-getters, there's always starting your own farm.
Totally an option. But even if you don't go that route, you can specialize. Genetics, nutrition, animal welfare, lots of paths.
Sounds like a lot of room to grow. Find your niche.
Exactly. That's what makes it so interesting. You're always learning.
And the guide really stresses networking, right? Building connections in the industry.
Can't stress it enough. Conferences, those professional groups, just meeting other breeders, opens doors, gives you support.
Like finding your tribe, people who get it.
100%. And mentors, too. Finding an experienced breeder who's willing to show you the ropes, invaluable.
Truth. Now, let's be real. Everyone wants to know about the money. What's the deal with salaries for breeders?
It varies a lot. Experience, where you are, how big the operation is, even the animals you're breeding. It all factors in.
Not so cut and dry then.
Right. But generally, the more experience you have, the better you are, the more you make. Experienced breeders can earn a good living, especially with specialized skills.
And I imagine there are bonuses, maybe a share of the profits, if the breeding program's doing well.
Oh, absolutely. So, yeah, if you're looking for a career that's both personally and financially rewarding, breeding's worth a look.
And that's where our buddy RoleCatcher comes in clutch again, yeah. Helping you figure out the going rate and even negotiate a good deal.
You got it. RoleCatcher gives you the data, the tools, so you know your worth and can fight for it.
So it's not just about getting a job. It's about building a career you're happy with.
Exactly. And with the right tools, the right attitude, you can achieve anything.
Sounds like fur animal breeding. It takes brains, guts, and a real soft spot for those animals.
It does. It does. It's not for everyone, that's for sure. But if it calls to you, the rewards are huge.
Speaking of rewards, the guide mentions some perks you don't always think about, right?
Right. I mean, first off, you're surrounded by animals all day long. For an animal person, doesn't get much better than that.
Totally. There's just something about it, working with living creatures.
There really is. And you're not just taking care of them, you're helping keep these special breeds going strong, contributing to something that brings people warmth and luxury.
Easy to forget that part, the end result, those beautiful furs.
Right. You get caught up in the day-to-day, but it's important to remember the bigger picture.
And that feeling when a breeding season goes well, you see those healthy animals grow, nothing like it.
Never gets old. Proof that you put in the work, the knowledge, all of it.
Now, before we wrap this whole deep dive up, one more shout out to RoleCatcher. Interview prep, salary stuff, career growth, we covered it all. But what about the mental game?
Oh, good point. Job hunting, it can
Yeah.
be tough, discouraging sometimes.
Especially in a field like this.
Yeah,
Lots of competition.
exactly. RoleCatcher, it can actually help with that too.
For real. How so?
Just knowing you've got this tool, it gives you a boost, like having an ace up your sleeve.
Love that. A little buddy in your corner.
Right. And that feedback you get, it's tailored to you, really helps you see your strengths, where you can improve.
So it's not just about getting hired, it's about feeling good about yourself through the whole process.
Exactly. That confidence makes all the difference.
RoleCatcher isn't just a tool, it's like a career partner.
I like that. It's there for you every step of the way, from landing that first job to navigating all the ups and downs that come after.
Well said. I think we've covered everything we can to get folks ready for their fur animals breeder interviews and beyond.
Definitely. The ins and outs of the job, the challenges, the career path, those make or break interview questions.
And how RoleCatcher can be a game changer the whole time.
To all our listeners out there, if you're passionate about animals and ready to dive into this rewarding world, good luck.
Hard work, dedication, and the right tools like RoleCatcher, you can make it happen.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of fur animals breeders. Until next time.